words, story, sometimes surviving well beyond the life of whole civilizations and cultures, passing on in time and in space and recognized by people in all sorts of contexts as having some sort of truth in them. Many of these stories are about transformations, and they're also about being in a hole and getting out of a hole, falling in, coming out through creativity and innovation. Let's take the oldest surviving story, perhaps the first that was written, certainly the first that survived to us today, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is the king of Uruk, between the two rivers of the Tigris and the Euphrates, the great city of Uruk. 5,000 years ago he's king. They say he's king for 100 years, which is code for forever. But the king is unhappy. He's a tyrant for sure, but he doesn't know how to make himself happy, and he's worried about not living long enough. He wants immortality. He goes on a quest with Enkidu. They go to the great cedars of Lebanon, defended by the forest spirit Humbaba. They kill Humbaba, chop the trees down. They kill the last of the winged bulls, the fire-breathing winged bulls. They go to Utnapishtim and hear from him about the flood, the great flood, and how he saved the creatures 2 by 2. And then Enkidu dies. And Gilgamesh, sad and unhappy and fragile, goes to the underworld, persuades the scorpion men to let him in, but Enkidu is not being allowed out. He's staying down there. Finally, Gilgamesh is told to dive down in a particular place near the coral, and he finds the secret of immortality, brings it to the surface, falls asleep, and it's stolen from him. There's no going back from that. He returns home to Uruk and looks around at the great city, the 8 kilometers of walls around the city, 7 meters high, and he realizes that this place can become somewhere that allows his reputation to survive. He channels water, irrigation water, turns the inside of the city area into a modern-day Venice, canals and crops and orchards and palms and figs and dates and all kinds of crops and trees and animals. It's a abundant, wonderful, blue-green place. It's flat. There's no great heterarchy. There is a heterarchy. There's no great hierarchy between the people who live there. And it's celebrated to give away things. The king demonstrates the abundance by having a small bowl which gives away, and people bring and pass on to others and look after everybody in the city. This creates a place of abundance which people want to come to. It becomes famed, the famous city of Uruk. And this is the place where writing is invented. The very business of putting words down to survive in the form they were written for potentially generations and forever. And what they use is the reed, the giant reed, Arundo Donax of the Mesopotamian region, and make styluses, pointed styluses like this, and peck the cuneiform onto soft clay. And it's the cuneiform tablets that survive to today. So it looks like the Epic of Gilgamesh was written 1,000 years after he was king, and then has survived to us for 4,000 years more. It's a pretty amazing record. Uruk itself survives for 3,500 years of continuous settlement. What a success of a blue-green, flat, equal place, looked after by people who valued all those important aspects of human living. Let's go north and a little bit west to Aleppo, city of the storytellers. city of flat roofs and coffee houses and souks. Many tens of souks, 54 of them in the Al Medina souk alone. One for meat, spices, olives, fish, every kind of food, every kind of consumable in each of the souks. And the king is Shahryar, and he is also the tyrant. And so he kills each new wife, each new queen after one night, and carries on doing this until the daughter of the vizier, Sheherazade, she says, I will do this. And her father says, oh no, too foolish. And she says, I shall proceed. And she goes ahead and marries the king. And on the first night, with her sister present, she starts telling stories. And she tells stories through the night, so compelling, the king wants to listen to more. And then the dawn comes up, and she says, we will finish tomorrow, when you will listen again. And so they come back to the stories. She's left it hanging, and she says, this will be even more mysterious than the last stories. And she carries on doing this. It's a kind of soap opera, leaving something hanging, so you wonder what's going to happen next, and you can't wait for it to happen. And so that's how she tells stories for 1001 nights. The tales, the 1001 Arabian tales that have become so famous. She, through story, transforms the court, but in the souks people are whispering and saying, wow, what's changed? This girl, she's changed the whole world by telling story to the king and changing the way he sees the world. And so they all feel part of this transformation. Third, west still, Ovid lives 2,000 years ago in Rome, the most famous poet, a great public person, too great for the emperor, who says, oh no, you shall be banished, sends him out east, beyond the Black Sea, and Ovid never will return to Rome. But he does complete his book called Metamorphoses, 250 tales of transformation. He said, these stories will change you when you read about them. And they're about change in them. Women weavers becoming bats, a young man becoming a deer, gods, animals, people being transformed, no appeal. There's no going back once things have changed. This is metamorphoses. And this is why we recognize them 2,000 years after as being so relevant to cultures today. Ovid finishes by saying, Viviam, I will live. And so actually it's his reputation that lives, just as it was the reputation of Gilgamesh and Sheherazade that passes across generations. That's how immortality comes. It comes through story. Moody al-Rashid, in her wonderful book, Between Two Rivers, she a translator of cuneiform and a writer, and she says there are about 100,000 of the clay tablets have been translated to date, but there are 500,000 remaining, at least, more probably not yet dug up, with stories, some with administrative data. This was sold, this was bought, these are the records of crops and wheat and water and all sorts. Lots of them are about beer. But there's also poetry and more story yet to be discovered. And she translates a lullaby that was sung in Uruk, and she sings it to her child. A lullaby of 4 lines, between 2 rivers. Little one, who dwelled in darkness, now you've come and seen the sun. Why the crying? Why the worries? What has made your peace undone? This is her lullaby, stretching across 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years from that time between the 2 rivers. So we have story, we have words, we have the writing We have the reputation of the story and the storytellers stretching across time, connecting with us today about transformation and about falling in a hole and getting out of a hole. And we see that as being relevant to us today.